The courtroom revelation. Michael Hartwell sat stiffly in the courtroom, his neatly pressed suit doing little to hide the tension coursing through his body. His knuckles were white as he gripped a thick manila folder, the edges of the paper inside worn from constant handling. Across the room, Amelia Porter sat with a quiet resolve, her hands folded neatly on the table in front of her. Her dark eyes were pools of restrained emotion, determination, fear, and a hint of exhaustion. Between them sat Judge Rebecca Calloway, her years of experience etched into her stern yet empathetic face. The room was unusually silent for a family court. Even the usual whispers of observers were absent, replaced by a palpable anticipation that hung in the air like a storm about to break. The custody battle over young Liam Porter had been dragging on for 3 years, but today everything would change. Michael, a successful architect known for his meticulous nature, had spent years trying to prove that Amelia had lied about Liam's paternity. Amelia, a dedicated kindergarten teacher, had stood her ground, insisting that Michael was indeed the father. Neither side had given an inch, and both had sacrificed much in this relentless battle. Judge Calloway adjusted her glasses and addressed the court, her voice steady and authoritative. Today, we will hear the results of the DNA test submitted as evidence. This test will determine the biological relationship between Mr. Hartwell and Liam Porter. A hush fell over the room as Dr. Claire Reynolds, the court-appointed geneticist, approached the stand. A seasoned professional, she held a thick file in her hands, but her usually composed demeanor seemed uncharacteristically tense. She cleared her throat and adjusted the microphone, her voice steady yet laced with an unusual weight. After extensive analysis and verification, Dr. Reynolds began, her words measured. The DNA results conclusively show that Mr. Hartwell is not Liam Porter's biological father. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Michael's face went pale, his jaw tightening as he stared blankly ahead. Amelia's hands flew to her mouth, her breath hitching as tears welled up in her eyes. The courtroom, stunned into silence, seemed to hold its breath. But Dr. Reynolds wasn't finished. Furthermore, she continued, her voice faltering slightly, the results also indicate that Miss Porter is not Liam Porter's biological mother. The words hung in the air like an impossibility. For a moment, the courtroom was utterly still, as if time itself had paused. Then chaos erupted. Gasps, whispers, and murmurs of disbelief filled the room. Judge Calloway banged her gavel sharply, her voice cutting through the noise. Order. I will have order in this courtroom. Michael turned to his lawyer, his expression a mixture of confusion and disbelief. What does she mean? How is that possible? He whispered harshly. Across the room, Amelia sat frozen, her tear-streaked face a mask of shock. Judge Calloway motioned for the room to settle, her expression grave. Dr. Reynolds, please explain these findings. Dr. Reynolds nodded, her grip tightening on the file. The DNA analysis shows that neither Mr. Hartwell nor Miss Porter share any biological markers with Liam. This suggests that there was likely a mix-up at the hospital where Liam was born. The weight of her words was almost too much to bear. Michael felt the air leave his lungs, and Amelia looked as though she might collapse. The two of them, who had spent years battling over Liam, now faced a reality far stranger than either could have imagined. A hospital mix-up. It seemed like something out of a melodramatic movie, yet here it was, tearing apart the lives of everyone involved. For 5 years, Michael and Amelia had poured their love, energy, and dreams into raising a child who wasn't biologically theirs. Your Honor, Dr. Reynolds continued, her voice heavy, this revelation opens the possibility that the biological parents of both children, Liam and another child, may have been raising the wrong children. The room erupted again, and Judge Calloway's gavel came down with authority. Enough. This court will not descend into chaos. I will hear from all parties involved, and we will determine the best course of action for this child. Michael and Amelia were too stunned to react further. The news had shattered everything they thought they knew. In the days following the courtroom revelation, the story gained national attention. News outlets scrambled to cover the bizarre custody case, dubbing it the Switched Lives trial. Journalists speculated about how such an error could have occurred. How could two families leave a hospital with the wrong children? For Michael, the revelation was a bitter pill to swallow. He had spent years convinced that Amelia had betrayed him, that Liam wasn't his son because of some infidelity. Now he realized the truth was far more complicated. His anger began to dissolve, replaced by an unsettling mix of guilt and helplessness. Amelia, too, wrestled with her emotions. She had always known Liam as her son, the baby she had cradled in her arms, nursed through fevers, and summed to sleep on countless nights. How could he not be hers? The idea felt like a cruel joke, a betrayal by fate itself. As the case unfolded, investigators began to dig into the circumstances surrounding Liam's birth. The hospital records revealed that two babies had been born in adjacent delivery rooms on the same night. A moment of confusion. A junior nurse handling identification bands in the middle of a chaotic shift had set the stage for a mistake that would ripple through countless lives. Michael and Amelia, once bitter enemies, now found themselves reluctantly united. They had no choice but to face the truth together. The question now was, where was their biological child? And what would happen to Liam, the boy they both loved? This question haunted them as the investigation deepened. Every step forward seemed to bring more questions than answers. Would they find their biological child? Would Liam ever forgive them for the truth? And most importantly, what did it mean to be a parent? Was it biology, or was it the years of love, care, and sacrifice they had poured into a child who was now at the center of a storm? Unknowingly, the fight for Liam's custody had transformed into something much larger, a battle for identity, love, and the very essence of what it meant to be a family. And the answers they sought would test everything they thought they knew about themselves and each other. The search for truth. The courtroom revelation sent shockwaves through Michael and Amelia's lives. In the days that followed, they found themselves swept into an emotional maelstrom. Neither could fully grasp the truth. The child they had both fought over wasn't theirs by blood. Yet, for both, Liam was still their son, the boy they had nurtured and loved without reservation. But now, the story had shifted from a custody battle to an unsettling mystery. Where was their biological child? A fragile alliance. Michael sat in his office late one evening, his usually pristine desk now cluttered with papers, case files, and medical reports. His lawyer had advised him to let the hospital investigation play out, but Michael's meticulous nature wouldn't allow him to sit idle. His laptop screen displayed a spreadsheet he created, listing every detail about the night Liam was born, the hospital staff on duty, the other families present, and any potential clues. His phone buzzed, breaking his concentration. He hesitated before answering. The name Amelia flashed on the screen. Their conversations had always been heated in the past, filled with accusations and resentment. But now, things were different. "Hello, Amelia," Michael said, his tone cautious. "Michael," she began, her voice softer than he had ever heard it. "We need to talk. I've been thinking about everything." Michael leaned back in his chair, gripping the phone tightly. "I've been thinking too. I started gathering information about the hospital. We need to find out where our child is." There was a pause on the line before Amelia responded, her voice trembling. "Do you think they're safe? What if something happened to them? What if they ended up in a worse situation than Liam did?" The thought hadn't fully occurred to Michael until now. He had been so focused on the logistics of solving the mystery that he hadn't considered the human element, the fear that their biological child might have suffered in ways Liam never had. "We'll find them," he said finally, his voice firm. "We'll make sure they're okay." For the first time in years, Michael and Amelia found themselves on the same side, united by a shared goal. Their fragile alliance was born not out of trust, but out of necessity and a mutual love for the children caught in this nightmare. The hospital investigation, The hospital's internal investigation was slow, hindered by incomplete records and the passage of time. Dr. Sarah Langston, the new chief of obstetrics, had taken over after her predecessor, Dr. Elena Morrison, was placed on administrative leave. Dr. Langston was determined to uncover the truth, not just for Michael and Amelia, but for the reputation of the hospital itself. "We've reviewed the logs from the night in question," Dr. Langston explained during a meeting with Michael and Amelia. 2 children were born in adjacent delivery rooms within 20 minutes of each other. The staff was understaffed, and there were power fluctuations that night due to a storm. Michael frowned, his lawyer-like instincts kicking in. How does a power fluctuation lead to swapping babies? Dr. Langston sighed, rubbing her temples. The electronic identification system went offline briefly. A nurse on the night shift resorted to manually labeling the babies. In the chaos, it appears the identification bands were mismatched. Amelia's hands clenched into fists. "You mean to tell us that a single mistake upended the lives of 2 families?" Her voice cracked, and tears streamed down her face. "How could this happen?" Dr. Langston's expression was somber. "It shouldn't have, but we're doing everything we can to find the truth. We're cross-referencing birth records, reaching out to families, and testing DNA wherever necessary." A breakthrough lead. A week later, a lead emerged. A retired nurse, Margaret Holloway, came forward after hearing about the case in the news. She had been working that fateful night and remembered the chaos vividly. "It was a madhouse," Margaret recalled during an interview with the investigators. "There were 3 emergency deliveries that night, and we were short-staffed. I remember one of the mothers screaming about her baby being taken too long for cleaning, but at the time, we thought it was just the stress of childbirth." Margaret's testimony added another layer of complexity to the case. Could the mix-up have happened during those moments when the babies were briefly separated from their mothers? The investigation intensified. Michael and Amelia were asked to provide DNA samples to compare with other children born at the hospital that night. Days stretched into weeks as they awaited results. Every passing moment felt like an eternity, filled with uncertainty and dread. The Garrett family. Across the city, Thomas and Elena Garrett sat in their modest suburban home, staring at a letter from the hospital requesting their participation in a DNA test. Their 5-year-old daughter, Lily, played quietly with her toys in the living room, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around her. Thomas, a middle school teacher, ran a hand through his graying hair. "This has to be some kind of mistake. Lily is our daughter. How can they say she might not be?" Elena, a nurse herself, looked equally shaken. "What if it's true, Thomas? What if there was a mix-up? What if our biological child is out there, being raised by someone else?" The couple wrestled with the decision, but ultimately agreed to provide the DNA samples. "If it means getting to the truth," Elena said, her voice firm, "then we have to do it. For Lily." Liam's innocence. Meanwhile, Liam remained blissfully unaware of the turmoil surrounding him. To him, Michael and Amelia were his parents, the only parents he had ever known. He spent his days building Lego castles in Michael's living room and drawing crayon portraits of Amelia during their weekend visits. But the adults around him couldn't hide their unease. Liam began to notice the whispered conversations, the tense silences, and the strange looks exchanged between Michael and Amelia. One evening, as Michael tucked him into bed, Liam looked up with his wide, innocent eyes. "Daddy, are you and Mommy mad at each other again?" Michael froze, his heart breaking at the question. "No, buddy," he said softly. "We're just trying to figure out some grown-up stuff. But we both love you very much. Never forget that." Liam nodded, satisfied for now. But Michael knew the questions would only get harder as the truth came to light. The results. Weeks later, the DNA results finally arrived. Dr. Langston called both Michael and Amelia to her office, her face unreadable as she handed them the reports. "Michael, Amelia," she began carefully, "we've identified the other family involved in the mix-up. The Garretts have been raising your biological child, a girl named Lily, for the past 5 years. Amelia gasped, clutching Michael's arm for support. The room seemed to tilt as the weight of the revelation sank in. And Liam? Michael asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Dr. Langston nodded solemnly. Liam is the biological son of the Garretts. For a moment, neither Michael nor Amelia could speak. The words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Their son, the boy they had loved and fought for, wasn't theirs by blood. And somewhere out there was a little girl who was. What happens now? Amelia finally managed to ask, her voice trembling. Dr. Langston sighed. That's up to you and the Garretts. The courts will need to be involved to determine the best course of action. But I urge you to consider the emotional well-being of both children above all else. Michael and Amelia exchanged a look, their newfound alliance tested by the enormity of the situation. They had found the truth, but it was only the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything they believed about family, love, and identity. The families meet. The revelation of the DNA results left Michael and Amelia grappling with an entirely new reality. The boy they had raised and loved as their son was biologically another family's child, and their biological daughter was out there, raised by strangers. But the strangers weren't so strange anymore. The Garrett family had also received the results, and the next step was inevitable. A meeting between the two families. The preparations. Michael paced nervously in his living room, the ticking of the clock on the wall matching the rhythm of his restless footsteps. Amelia sat on the couch, her hands tightly gripping a mug of untouched tea. The Garretts were on their way, and the tension in the room was palpable. How do we even start a conversation like this? Michael muttered, more to himself than to Amelia. Amelia looked up, her eyes red from sleepless nights. I don't know, she admitted. What do you say to the people who have been raising your daughter? How do you explain to Liam that his world is about to change? The question hung in the air, unanswered. Both of them knew there were no easy answers, no perfect words to bridge the unimaginable gap between their families. The first meeting. When the doorbell rang, Michael froze. Amelia placed a hand on his arm, steadying him. We'll get through this, she said softly, though she didn't sound convinced. Michael opened the door to find Thomas and Alina Garrett standing on the porch. Thomas was tall and broad-shouldered, with kind but wary eyes. Alina, petite and composed, held tightly to the hand of a little girl with chestnut curls and a curious expression. Lily. Michael's heart skipped a beat as he looked at her. This was his daughter, his biological daughter. She looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes, and for a moment, he felt a strange connection, as though his heart recognized her even if his mind struggled to process the truth. Hi, Thomas said awkwardly, extending a hand. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Alina, and this is Lily. Michael shook his hand, his grip firm but trembling. Michael, and this is Amelia. He gestured to Amelia, who smiled nervously. They all stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say or do. Finally, Amelia knelt down to Lily's level, her voice soft and warm. Hi, Lily. I'm Amelia. Lily tilted her head, her expression curious but unafraid. Hi, she said shyly, clutching her mother's hand. Come in, Michael said, stepping aside. The Garretts entered, and the family settled into the living room, where Liam was waiting. The boy looked up from his coloring book, his face lighting up when he saw Michael and Amelia. But his smile faltered when he noticed the strangers and the little girl with them. Daddy? Mommy? Who are they? Liam asked, his voice filled with innocent curiosity. Michael and Amelia exchanged a look. This was the moment they had dreaded. Michael knelt beside Liam, his heart aching. Liam, these are some very special people we want you to meet. This is Thomas, Alina, and their daughter Lily. Liam's brow furrowed. Why are they special? Amelia's voice broke as she tried to explain. Sweetheart, remember how we talked about families and how they come in all shapes and sizes? Well, Lily is very special because she's part of our family too. Liam looked confused but didn't press further. Instead, he turned to Lily. Hi, he said, offering her a crayon. Do you like to color? Lily hesitated, then smiled and took the crayon. The adults watched in stunned silence as the two children began coloring together, oblivious to the heavy emotions swirling around them. The conversation. While the children played, the adults sat around the dining table, their conversation tentative at first. Thomas broke the ice. This isn't easy for any of us, he said, but we want to do what's best for both kids. Alina nodded. Lily doesn't know yet. We've been waiting until we understand how to explain it to her. She's happy, and we don't want to confuse her. Amelia's voice was shaky but determined. Liam doesn't know either. He's such a sweet boy. I don't want him to feel like he's losing the only family he's ever known. Michael chimed in, his tone thoughtful. Maybe the answer isn't to take anything away from them. Maybe it's to give them more. Thomas raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Michael took a deep breath. Liam and Lily don't just have one family. They have two. Maybe we don't have to separate them or make them choose. Maybe we can figure out how to be in their lives together. The room fell silent as everyone considered the idea. It was unconventional, but then nothing about their situation was conventional. Alina finally spoke. It's not going to be easy, but I think you're right. These kids deserve all the love they can get. A new dynamic. In the weeks that followed, the two families worked together to create a plan. They arranged regular playdates for Liam and Lily, allowing them to bond naturally. They also met with child psychologists to help navigate the emotional complexities of their situation. Liam and Lily adapted quicker than the adults had expected. Their innocence allowed them to accept each other without the baggage of the past. To them, it was simple. They had new friends who cared about them. For Michael and Amelia, the transition was bittersweet. Seeing Lily's bright smile and hearing her infectious laugh filled a void they hadn't realized was there. But it also brought a pang of guilt. 5 years of missed milestones, birthdays, and bedtime stories. They couldn't get that time back, but they were determined to make the most of the future. The Garretts faced similar emotions. Watching Liam's inquisitive nature and warm personality was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. He was their biological son, yet he called someone else Mommy and Daddy. But like Michael and Amelia, they chose to focus on what they could build rather than what they had lost. A shared commitment. The two families grew closer over time, bound by their shared love for the children and their commitment to doing what was best for them. They celebrated holidays together, attended school events side by side, and navigated the challenges of co-parenting with a united front. For Liam and Lily, the arrangement became their new normal. They didn't see the adult struggles or hear their late-night discussions. All they knew was that they were loved by two moms, two dads, and an extended family that would do anything for them. Facing the future, months later, Michael and Amelia stood side by side with Thomas and Alina at Liam's school play. Liam, dressed as a tree, waved enthusiastically from the stage. In the audience, Lily giggled and clapped, her curls bouncing as she cheered him on. Michael looked over at Thomas and smiled. We've come a long way. Thomas nodded. Yeah, we have. And I think the kids are going to be okay. Amelia reached over and squeezed Alina's hand. Thank you. For everything. Alina smiled through tears. We're all in this together. As the play ended and the children ran to their parents, the two families embraced, their bonds stronger than ever. The journey had been painful, but it had also brought them something extraordinary. A new definition of family, one built not just on biology, but on love, trust, and unwavering commitment. Challenges and bonds. The months following the initial meeting of the Hartwell, Porter, and Garrett families were a whirlwind of adjustments, decisions, and emotional revelations. What had initially seemed impossible, co-parenting across two families, was slowly becoming their new normal. Yet, the challenges that came with it tested their patience, resilience, and capacity for understanding. The legal battle. Despite their personal commitment to making the unconventional arrangement work, the families faced legal obstacles. Child custody laws were designed to handle disputes between two parents, not two sets of parents. The courts had to step in to formalize their arrangement, and the process was far from straightforward. Judge Evelyn Sanders, assigned to the case, was a no-nonsense woman known for her strict adherence to the law, but also her ability to think outside the box. During the preliminary hearing, she addressed both families directly. "You've come to an agreement that prioritizes the children's well-being," Judge Sanders began, her tone serious but not unkind. "However, the law doesn't account for situations like this. We need to ensure that both Liam and Lily have a stable environment, legally and emotionally." Michael, ever the strategist, had prepared extensively. He presented a joint custody proposal that outlined visitation schedules, shared holidays, and financial responsibilities. It also included provisions for therapy and a gradual transition plan for Liam and Lily to understand their unique family dynamic. Thomas, though initially skeptical of legal intervention, supported the proposal. "This isn't about us," he said during the hearing. "It's about making sure our kids know they're loved and secure." Judge Sanders reviewed the proposal and called for input from child psychologists and family law experts. After weeks of deliberation, she made a groundbreaking ruling. Both families would retain legal custody of Liam and Lily, with shared parental rights. The decision, though unconventional, recognized the children's emotional ties to both families and set a precedent in family law. As the ruling was finalized, Amelia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. "We fought so hard," she whispered to Michael. "It's not perfect, but it's a start." Public scrutiny. News of the court's decision quickly spread, turning the families into the focus of media attention. Tabloids dubbed them the miracle parents, while talk shows debated the ethics of the case. Some praised the families for their cooperative approach, while others criticized the legal system for overcomplicating the matter. For the Garretts, the attention was overwhelming. Thomas found himself fielding questions from colleagues at school, while Alina faced scrutiny from her hospital peers. "People act like we're some sort of spectacle," Alina said one evening, venting her frustration. "They don't understand how hard this has been." Michael, used to navigating high-pressure situations as an architect, suggested hiring a public relations consultant to manage the narrative. "If we don't tell our stories, someone else will," he argued. The families eventually released a joint statement to the press, emphasizing their shared commitment to Liam and Lily's well-being. The statement helped shift the focus away from the drama and toward the positive message of love and resilience. Still, the spotlight wasn't easy to bear. One afternoon, while shopping with Liam, Amelia overheard a stranger whisper, "That's the woman from the custody case." The comment stung, but she held her head high, determined to shield Liam from the judgment of others. Therapy and healing. Both families began attending family therapy sessions, led by Dr. Karen Hill, a compassionate and experienced psychologist. Dr. Hill's office became a safe space where they could explore their feelings, fears, and hopes for the future. During one session, Liam asked a question that silenced the room. "Why can't Lily live with us all the time? She's fun." Amelia's heart ached as she struggled to find the right words. "Liam," she said gently, "Lily has her mommy and daddy, just like you have me and Daddy Michael. But we're all one big family now, and we get to spend lots of time together." Lily, sitting beside Thomas, nodded thoughtfully. "Does that mean I have two mommies and two daddies?" Dr. Hill smiled. "It means you have more people who love you than most kids ever get. That's pretty special, isn't it?" The children accepted this explanation with the simplicity only young minds could manage. For the adults, however, the therapy sessions were far more complex. They wrestled with guilt, grief for the years they had missed, and the challenges of navigating a blended family. Amelia, in particular, struggled with feelings of inadequacy. "I wasn't there for Lily when she needed me as a baby," she confided during one session. "How do I make up for that?" Dr. Hill's response was firm yet kind. "You don't need to make up for anything, Amelia. What matters is the love you're giving her now. Children don't measure love in years. They measure it in moments." Building a routine. As the family settled into their new arrangement, they discovered the importance of routines. The children spent weekdays with their original families and weekends together, alternating between the Hartwells' urban apartment and the Garretts' suburban home. Holidays became a shared celebration, blending traditions and creating new ones. For Thanksgiving, the families decided to host a joint dinner. Michael carved the turkey, while Thomas led a lively game of charades. Liam and Lily ran between the two households, their laughter echoing in the crisp autumn air. The arrangement wasn't without its hiccups. There were disagreements over parenting styles. Michael's structured approach often clashed with Thomas's laid-back attitude, and Amelia's overprotectiveness sometimes frustrated Elena. But through open communication and a shared commitment to the children, they found compromises. One evening, as the family sat around a bonfire in the Garretts' backyard, Lily looked up at the stars and asked, "Can we always stay like this?" Michael, holding Liam on his lap, smiled. "We'll always be a family, Lily, no matter what." The children's perspective. For Liam and Lily, the transition was both exciting and confusing. They loved the extra attention and the novelty of having two homes, but they also had questions. "Do I look like them?" Liam asked Amelia one day, pointing to a photo of the Garretts. "Do they look like me?" Amelia hesitated, then knelt beside him. "A little maybe, but you also look like yourself, Liam. And that's the most important thing." Lily had her own questions, often directed at Elena. Why did it take so long to find out about Michael and Amelia? Were they looking for me? Elena hugged her tightly. "They didn't know, sweetheart. But now that they do, they love you very much, just like we do." The children's resilience amazed the adults. While the parents navigated their complicated emotions, Liam and Lily forged a bond that was simple and pure. They became each other's confidants, playmates, and occasional partners in crime. Looking forward, months turned into a year, and the families continued to grow closer. The initial awkwardness and tension gave way to a genuine bond, rooted in their shared love for Liam and Lily. One sunny afternoon, the two families gathered at a park for a picnic. Liam and Lily raced across the grass, their laughter blending with the rustling of the trees. The adults sat on a blanket, watching the children with a mix of pride and gratitude. Thomas turned to Michael and said, "You know, if someone had told me a year ago that this would be our life, I wouldn't have believed them." Michael chuckled. "Same here, but I wouldn't trade it for anything." Amelia and Elena exchanged a smile, their friendship forged through shared challenges and triumphs. "We've come a long way," Amelia said. Elena nodded. "And we still have a long way to go. But as long as we're in this together, I think we'll be okay." The family sat in comfortable silence, watching as Liam and Lily climbed a nearby tree. For all the pain, confusion, and obstacles they had faced, they had found something extraordinary, a family that defied convention, but thrived on love, trust, and a shared commitment to the children who had brought them together. Growing together. As the years passed, the Hartwell, Porter, and Garrett families settled into a rhythm that, while unconventional, worked for them. Liam and Lily were now 8 years old, thriving in their own ways, and blissfully accepting of their unique family dynamic. For the parents, however, the journey was far from simple. As the children grew older, so did their questions, their awareness, and the challenges of explaining their shared history. School challenges. One sunny afternoon, Liam and Lily sat side by side on a bench outside their elementary school, eating their packed lunches. Their bond had grown deeper over the years. They were more than siblings. They were best friends. but their closeness often raised questions from their classmates. "Why do you guys have two moms and two dads?" a boy named Jason asked one day, his tone more curious than mean. Lily tilted her head, pondering the question. "Because we're lucky," she said simply, her smile wide and unapologetic. "We have extra love." Liam nodded in agreement, though the question lingered in his mind. That evening, as Michael helped him with his homework, Liam finally voiced his thoughts. "Dad, why do some kids say our family is weird?" he asked, his brow furrowed. Michael set down the pencil he was holding and looked into his son's earnest eyes. "Well, buddy," he began, "our family is different, and sometimes people don't understand things that are different. But that doesn't make it bad. It just makes us special." Liam seemed to consider this for a moment before nodding. "So it's like how Lily likes broccoli, and I don't. It's not bad, just different." Michael chuckled, ruffling Liam's hair. "Exactly. And the most important thing is that we all love each other, no matter what." The same conversation played out in the Garrett household a few days later, when Lily asked Elena why she had two sets of parents. Elena, always thoughtful in her explanations, smiled softly. "Because sometimes life gives us surprises, sweetheart," she said. "And our surprise was finding out that you had two amazing parents who love you just as much as we do." Lily hugged her tightly. "I think it's cool. I have double the hugs." Milestones shared. As Liam and Lily grew older, the families faced the bittersweet reality of missed milestones. Michael and Amelia had never seen Lily take her first steps or heard her first words, and the Garretts hadn't been there for Liam's first day of school. These moments, though unspoken, weighed on all of them. One spring evening, as the families gathered for dinner at the Garretts' home, the subject came up. Lily, now a budding artist, proudly showed Michael and Amelia a drawing she had made. "You were supposed to see my first drawing," she said innocently, "but you weren't there." "Why?" The room fell silent, the adults exchanging uneasy glances. Amelia knelt beside Lily, her voice gentle but steady. "We didn't know about each other back then, Lily. But we're here now, and we'll never miss another one of your drawings, okay?" Lily smiled, seemingly satisfied with the answer, and skipped off to show Liam her latest masterpiece. But for the adults, the moment lingered, a reminder of what had been lost and a motivation to cherish every moment moving forward. Teenage revelations. As Liam and Lily approached their teenage years, their understanding of their family's history deepened. With maturity came new questions, and this time, the answers weren't always easy to accept. One evening, while cleaning out the attic, Liam stumbled upon a box of old documents. Among them was a news clipping about the Switched Lives trial. Curious, he brought it to Michael. "Dad," Liam asked hesitantly, "what's this?" Michael's heart sank. He had known this day would come but hadn't expected it so soon. Sitting Liam down, he carefully explained the story. The hospital mix-up, the DNA test, and how their families had come together. "Does that mean you're not really my dad?" Liam asked, his voice trembling. Michael's heart ached at the question. "Liam, being a dad isn't just about biology. It's about loving you, taking care of you, and being there for you no matter what. I'm your dad in every way that matters." Liam nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. "So, Thomas is my dad too?" "Yes," Michael said softly. "You have two dads and two moms who all love you very much. It's a lot, I know, but it's also pretty amazing." Similar conversations happened in the Garrett household, where Lily asked Elena and Thomas about the mix-up. Her questions were more pointed, reflecting the curiosity of a girl who had always been wise beyond her years. "Do you ever wish I was your real daughter from the start?" she asked one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. Thomas pulled her into a hug. "Lily, you are our real daughter. It doesn't matter how we found each other or when. What matters is that you're ours, and we're yours. Always." Strengthened bonds. Despite the difficult conversations, the families grew closer. Liam and Lily's teenage years brought new challenges: school dances, soccer games, and first crushes. But the support of their extended family made the journey easier. One summer, the families decided to take a joint vacation to a lakeside cabin. It was a week filled with laughter, bonfires, and heartfelt moments. On the last night, as they all sat around the fire, Lily made a surprising announcement. "I think we should have a family name," she said, her face lit by the flickering flames. Thomas raised an eyebrow. "A family name?" "Yeah," Lily insisted. "Like Hartwell Garrett or something. So people know we're all one big family." The suggestion brought smiles and a few tears. It was a simple yet profound reminder of how far they had come. Though they hadn't started as one family, they had become one in the truest sense. Legacy of love. By the time Liam and Lily were preparing to leave for college, the families had created a bond that transcended the unusual circumstances of their origin. They were no longer just two families. They were a united, loving network that celebrated each other's successes and supported one another through challenges. At Liam and Lily's high school graduation, the family sat together, cheering louder than anyone else. As Liam gave his valedictorian speech, he spoke directly to the people who had shaped his life. "People ask me all the time what it's like to have two moms and two dads," he said, his voice steady. "I tell them it's like having double the love, double the support, and double the family. I'm the luckiest kid in the world, and I wouldn't trade my family for anything." The crowd erupted into applause, but it was the tearful smiles of Michael, Amelia, Thomas, and Elena that meant the most to him. As the families gathered for photos after the ceremony, Michael put a hand on Thomas's shoulder. "We did okay, didn't we?" Thomas nodded, his eyes shining. "Yeah, we did." They had started as strangers brought together by an unimaginable mistake, but they had become something extraordinary. A family built on love, trust, and the unwavering belief that they were stronger together than apart. A legacy of love. As Liam and Lily stepped into adulthood, the unique family bond they had shared throughout their lives became a cornerstone of who they were. The love and support of two families, united by an extraordinary twist of fate, had shaped them into compassionate, resilient, and grounded individuals. While they pursued their dreams, the bonds they had forged over the years remained as strong as ever, weaving a legacy that would influence not just their lives, but the lives of generations to come. Starting their journeys, Liam headed off to college with ambitions of becoming an engineer, inspired by Michael's meticulous planning and problem-solving skills. His years of building Lego towers with Michael had evolved into a love for designing structures that could stand the test of time. Lily, ever the artist, chose to attend an arts academy in a bustling city. Her childhood sketches, nurtured by Elena's encouragement and Amelia's heartfelt praise, blossomed into a passion for storytelling through illustrations. The night before Liam left for college, Michael and Amelia hosted a small family dinner. Thomas, Elena, and Lily were there too, creating an atmosphere that felt more like a celebration than a goodbye. As the meal wound down, Liam raised his glass. "I just want to say thank you," he began, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Thank you for giving me everything I needed and more. You've all been there for me in ways I can't put into words. I don't have one family, I have two, and that's the best thing I could have ever asked for." The table erupted into applause, with a few tears shed as the toast marked the beginning of a new chapter. Similarly, before Lily left for the city, the Garretts held a small gathering in her honor. Amelia gave her a sketchbook embossed with her name, a reminder that she would always have her family cheering her on. "Wherever you go," Amelia told her, "just remember that we're always here for you." Lily hugged her tightly, whispering, "I know, Mom. I love you." Navigating adulthood. Though they lived in different cities, Liam and Lily stayed close. They texted constantly, sharing updates about their classes, friends, and the occasional existential crisis. During holidays, they returned home, where their blended family eagerly awaited their stories. One Thanksgiving, the families gathered at the Hartwell Porter home. Lily brought a portfolio of her latest work, a children's book she was illustrating, and proudly showed it to everyone. One illustration, in particular, caught Michael's eye. It was of a tree with two trunks intertwined, their branches forming a canopy under which two children played. "This is us," Lily explained. "The two families growing together, giving us shelter." The room grew quiet as the weight of her words sank in. Thomas cleared his throat, his voice thick with emotion. "That's beautiful, Lily. It's exactly what we've built." Liam, never one to be outdone, teased, "Guess I need to design something for the family too. Maybe a house big enough for all of us." The laughter that followed carried a sense of unity, a testament to how far they had come. Facing new challenges. As the years passed, new challenges emerged. Liam graduated with honors and landed a job with a prestigious architecture firm, but the pressures of the corporate world tested his confidence. During one particularly rough week, he called Thomas for advice. "Dad, how did you handle the stress of teaching?" Liam asked, his voice strained. Thomas, ever the patient listener, responded, "One day at a time. Son, you don't have to have all the answers right now. Remember why you started. Focus on what makes you love what you do." The conversation reminded Liam of the countless lessons he'd learned from both families. Perseverance from Michael, empathy from Amelia, encouragement from Thomas, and creativity from Elena. Lily, meanwhile, faced rejection from publishers who didn't understand her artistic style. One evening, during a video call with Amelia, she broke down. "Maybe I'm not good enough," she said, tears streaming down her face. Amelia's heart ached, but her voice remained steady. "Lily, every great artist faces rejection. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means you haven't found the right audience yet. Keep going. You're going to make something amazing." Lily wiped her tears, nodding. "Thanks, Mom. I needed that." Milestones and celebrations. Years later, the families came together once again, this time for Liam's wedding. He had met Sophia, a fellow architect, whose wit and warmth had won over everyone. The ceremony took place in a botanical garden, with both families sitting side by side in the front rows. As Liam and Sophia exchanged vows, Michael and Thomas shared a proud glance. They had both raised him, guided him, and now they were watching him step into a new chapter. During the reception, Lily gave a heartfelt speech. "Liam, you've always been my best friend, my big brother, and my partner in crime. Watching you today reminds me of how lucky we are to have each other and the family that brought us here." Liam stood, pulling her into a hug. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lil." Years later, when Lily launched her first illustrated children's book, Two Branches, One Tree, both families attended her book signing. The story, loosely based on her childhood, depicted two children from different worlds finding each other and creating a unique family. "I wrote this for us," Lily said during her speech, "to show the world that family isn't just about where you start. It's about who loves you along the way. A legacy for the future." As the years rolled on, the families continued to grow. Liam and Sophia welcomed twins, and Lily became their doting aunt. The Garretts and Hartwell Porters remained an inseparable part of each other's lives, celebrating milestones, weathering challenges, and cherishing the bond they had built. When the twins, Max and Ellie, were old enough to ask about their extended family, Liam explained it simply. "We're one big family with a lot of love to share." The twins grew up surrounded by stories of their father's unique upbringing and the extraordinary love that brought their family together. They often spent weekends at Lily's studio, marveling at her artwork and hearing about the adventures she and Liam had as kids. As Michael, Amelia, Thomas, and Elena grew older, they watched their children and grandchildren with pride. What had begun as a mistake, a mix-up that could have torn them apart, had become the foundation for something extraordinary, a reunion under the tree. One summer, the families decided to gather once more at the lakeside cabin, where they had vacationed years ago. Liam and Lily, now in their 30s, brought their families, creating a lively mix of laughter, games, and reminiscing. As the sun set, the group gathered around a familiar bonfire. Lily brought out her sketchbook, flipping to a page that depicted the tree she had drawn years ago. This time, it was fuller, with more branches and leaves representing their growing family. "This is us," she said, her voice steady with emotion. "We've grown so much, and we'll keep growing." Michael raised his glass, a smile tugging at his lips. To family, unexpected, unconventional, and absolutely perfect. To family, everyone echoed, their voices blending into the warm evening air. Under the canopy of stars, the family sat together, their laughter and love a testament to the legacy they had built. They had turned a moment of confusion into a lifetime of connection, proving that family wasn't defined by biology alone but by the bonds of love, resilience, and unwavering support. And as the fire crackled and the children played under the spreading branches of the tree, their legacy of love shone brighter than ever.